Okay, good morning, everybody. Can I start, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please start.
Yeah. Okay, now, good morning, everybody. And why I was insisting on this Python 3, because Python 2 is obsolete. It is existing only to run some old codes. And no new codes are developed in Python 2. So it's already seen its end of life, maybe about a couple of years back. And why notebook, this Jupyter notebook? Because for having a better learning experience and also to review what you have done in the end of the day, this gives you a very good documentation. And end of the day, you have done your documentation as well. You have learned or you have executed some codes alongside. Now, for this tutorial purpose, I have created one Jupyter notebook exercise. I'll just run that. I just want to explain and run the code so that you can appreciate how the things are actually producing the output based upon the code that you have written. This Jupyter notebook opens up in a web browser, whichever is the default web browser that you have set, and it opens up in that. And you can see that there are different cells here. Now, this cell can be configured as a code cell or a markdown cell or a raw text cell or a heading cell. By default, it will be a code cell. So whatever you type there will be considered as a valid Python code. I have modified this cell to be a markdown cell. Now, if it is a markdown cell, our LaTeX syntax will be used here, and you can see that actual text that I've typed is this. So use of this double hash in the beginning makes this little bolder, and if I just execute this, it will be visible in this manner. So when I create a PDF file out of this web page, it will exactly look like this. I can see what all commands I have executed. I can also see the output because I have not executed them. You can see the output. So this gives me a good document for me to refer at the later point of time. There's a reason why this gives you a good learning experience as well. It provides you the documentation alongside very easily. There are some other tools, like I hope you would have heard about Anaconda. And Anaconda gives you, it gives you all the most of the libraries already gets installed. As well, this Jupyter notebook and other tools will get automatically installed in them. So we don't have to do that once again. But unfortunately, it is a very heavy software. It consumes it occupies a lot of memory in the hard disk as well as in the when you are executing, it occupies a lot of memory in the your regular memory. So it almost occupies around 1 GB. I don't recommend Anaconda, but for if you have about 8 GB of memory in your laptop or system, then probably you can use Anaconda. And also it takes a little longer time to load. Okay. Now coming to the Python basics. Sir, I hope I am audible. Hello?
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Okay. Now, these are some simple expressions. Probably you would have already tried these things when you began with the Python earlier. These are just some expression. I have just initialized two variables. Now, as you already know, unlike in C or C++, we don't have to declare any variables here. So you just say x equal to 15, and based upon the way you have typed, it will understand that x is a integer variable and it is initialized with the value of 15. Now, suppose if I write it as 15.0, then it will take it as a floating point variable. So what you assign here, that is most important. So if I just write 15, it will be an integer. It will take it as an integer. So I have just defined two integers, and I'm just trying to do some arithmetic operation here, just to run through what are the different arithmetic operators that are available. So we have this addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and integer division. There are two separate divisions. A single slash will be a floating point division. So here x by y, 15 by 4 will give me 3.75. The result will be a floating point value. Whereas in the second one, integer division, x double slash y, here the output will be an integer. So 15 by 4, that will give an answer of 3. So whatever is above that, whatever remainder, that will be truncated. And exponentiation, x raised to y, so it will be 15 raised to 4, and x modulus y, so what is the remainder after dividing 15 by 4? So in this case it will be 3. So I'm using some print statement to print out this answer. And now once I write this code, okay, once I write this code, I press enter along with shift key, shift enter. So when I use this shift enter, the code in this cell gets executed, and the output is, you can see all these print statements have been executed and the output is available here. Okay, so that's how this interactive Jupyter Notebook works. And yeah, I just listed for the sake of documentation, for the sake of further reference or later reference, I just typed in some those assignment operators. I will not go through this for the lack of time. And remember that in Python there is no plus plus operator as in C++, okay, or minus minus to decrement or plus plus to increment. There are no such operator. You have to manually add one, or you should say that, say for example, A is equal to A plus 1. Or at most you can say A plus equal to minus 1, or A plus equal to 1. That you can give. Like you can use this one. This operator can be used. But there is no plus plus operator, or there is no minus minus operator. There are some comparison operator. I think it is self-explanatory. I have not given any examples for this. We will get occasions later to use them in the code many times. So these are some comparison operator which compares the two values. And these are the logical operators, and, not, and, or. Okay. And I just put them in the documentation. You will get this file probably in your email at the end of the session, or maybe little after that. There are some bitwise operator. For example, like you can make a bitwise operation between two integers or two numbers. Okay. These are the bitwise operators. All these things are available in C++, and almost the same symbols and same notations are used even in Python. There is some membership operator. I have a few examples, maybe in another 2 cells down. I will come to that. So membership operator. So like for example, in my name Ravi, R-A-V-I, whether I say that R in Ravi, the answer is true. Whether R is a member of that particular sequence or a particular set. Okay. So these are the membership operators. And when you have so many operators, there need to be some precedence, in which precedence they are executed. And I have just listed them in the order in which those things are executed. So first is parenthesis, contents inside the parenthesis will be executed first. And then higher precedence is for exponentiation. And the plus, minus, and in this unary minus, unary plus, they will have higher precedence. Then you have the arithmetic operators, okay, then the shift operators, and so on. This is the order in which when you have a long expression with multiple operators, this is the order in which they will be executed. Okay. Well, if there is any queries, I wish you interrupt me any point of time, no issues. How to write the comments in Python? I think there is some example a few slides down. A few cells down, I'll come to that. So if you want a single line comment, I can write it with the single hash. I'll give you an example when that this in the letters point of time. Now another very important aspect in is indentation. In C or C++, we use curly braces to indicate the block of a code. For example, if there is a for loop or if there is a while loop in C++ or in C, we use curly braces to include all the codes inside that block. In Python, there is no such curly braces used for blocking, I mean, to indicate the block of code. For example, if you write a for loop, these are the codes which go inside the for loop. You can see that there is no curly braces used to group this part of the code, but instead indentation is used. So I have my for statement here. We'll see the details later. This is my for statement, the header of the for statement, which ends with the colon, which is very important. Then the code will start after 4 characters. This we call it as a tab. Now, whether it is a 4 character or 8 character, that is something settable, that is something configurable, and by default, it is in Python compilers or in Python editors, they have been set to 4 characters. So after 4 characters, this will start. So every part of the, I mean, every statement in the for statement, for loop, it will start with an indentation. This is the indentation. Indentation is 4 characters, 4 character positions. So after that, the next statement has started. And this is also part of the statement. If statement also will have a block of code. You can see that from here another 4 characters have left. I mean 4 characters. After 4 characters, the break statement has come. Okay. So this is how the indentation, which must be religiously followed in Python, because if you don't follow this, your code will have a different meaning. And most of the editors that you are using, including IDLE of Python 3 and the other standard editors that are being used, they will support you for this indentation, because once you have this colon and press enter to go to the next line, automatically the cursor will start blinking at this point. And if you want to go back to the first line, first character position, you'll have to forcefully take the cursor to the first character position. Otherwise, automatically it will come here. Okay. So we will see in our course later how exactly this has to be followed. Okay. But this indentation is something, a very important aspect in Python coding. I have one more example here. You can go through that leisurely. Okay, now in Python, everything is an object. Maybe if you have studied C++ or Java, you know the object is there, or both of them are object-oriented programming languages, and so is Python, which is an object-oriented programming language. Only thing is it doesn't have a compiler. You don't need to compile the program because there is an interpreter which will interpret each line of the code and then execute that code. What we mean by object here is, even if you say that earlier I have initialized one variable x as with 15, x equal to 15. So x is an integer object. Okay. The major difference is x is basically an object which occupies a larger number of bytes in the memory. For example, in C++, if I declare a variable as an integer, it exactly occupies 4 bytes in almost all systems. Okay, it occupies exactly 4 bytes, not less, not more. But in Python, I think somewhere down, I'll show you. It occupies more number of bytes. In fact, if my memory goes right, an integer variable occupies 23 bytes in Python. There are simple commands by which you can get to know how much memory it occupies in the memory. So there are many other informations of the object that is stored alongside in the memory, along with the value. Okay, it is not just the value 15 stored. There are some other attributes of the integer stored, and then there are some other parameters which are stored. So everything in Python is an object. Okay. And these are some of the built-in objects like numbers, which are integers, floating point numbers, for complex numbers, etc. Strings, which is a group of characters, a list, dictionary, tuple, set, file, and there are some Boolean objects, and there are some user-defined, even a function is considered as an object, and implementation related, I mean the user-defined objects. So these are some objects which are built in to Python. Coming to numbers, because that is the one which we will be most interested. We have the integers. For example, if I say x equal to 15, it is considered as an integer. If I say x equal to 15.5, then it's considered as a floating point number, or it can be a complex number like 3 plus 4j. And for example, the 56 is an integer. This is a floating point number. And you have another 3.5 plus 4.9j, which is a complex number. Okay. Okay. Now I have one small set of code here. I'm giving you some tips here to get this. In fact, most of the books don't give you this kind of codes. Some tricks to get how many bytes are there in any given object. So what I'm trying to do here is, I'll come to this part, this line of the code shortly. I'm defining one integer, n equal to 1234. So this is an integer value. And I am printing its value. And also I am printing its size in the memory, how much space in the memory it occupies. Okay. And then I have another string. This is considered as a string, a group of characters. And I'm also printing how much memory it occupies in the, how much bytes of memory it occupies. So you can see that I've already executed this. Let me execute it once again. I have executed by pressing Shift Enter key. And you can see that integer, which occupies 28. Sorry, I think earlier I told 23. It is not 28 bytes. It occupies 28 bytes in memory. And this one occupies 79 bytes. In fact, its length is only 30. In the next cell, I'm actually finding out its length. Okay, I'm finding out the length of this. In fact, there are 30 characters in this. In this string, there are 30 characters, not counting this end quotes. The beginning quote and end quote is not counted as the character. They are only used to enclose it and to say that it is a string. So there are 30 characters in this. Now, if I had defined this as a character string in C++, it would have exactly occupied only 30 bytes. But in Python, you can see that it occupies 49 more bytes. Okay, because it is an object. There are many methods that you can apply onto this string. We will come to that in a short while. Okay. Now this len, which is built-in function of Python, it is short form for length of any message, any sequence. So here message is actually a sequence of characters. It is a group of characters. So what is the length of this? Now remember, length of this is not in terms of byte. Length of this is in terms of the number of characters. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that you can count up to 30. So it has 30 characters. Okay. Okay, we will be using this len function quite often in many Python programs, which are mainly used for determining the length of a sequence or determining the length of, for example, a character or a string, or the length of a list. Okay. Just to recapitulate all these things, I have put one exercise here. The volume of the sphere, which has an expression, if given the radius r, it has an expression like this, 4 by 3 pi r cube. So what is the volume of the sphere with radius r? So what I want here is I want to input the radius, and based upon that value, I will calculate the volume and display the output. Okay. So I'll just run this and then come back to the explanation. So what happens when I execute this code is it should ask for the value of the radius. Okay, you can see that there is a small prompt here, like enter the value of the radius. So I'll enter the value of the radius, say some 17, and press enter key. Okay, so you can see that it has computed the volume of the given sphere is so much. Now I have given a value which is an integer. Okay, I could have given float point value also by saying it as 17.0, by typing it as 17.0. But note that in my expression for volume, I have written volume equal to 4 divided by 3. There is a single slash here. Though the two arguments are integer, when I write 4 by 3, the output is always going to be a floating point number. And once I use one floating point number in the expression, whatever be the type of other numbers, everything will be converted into floating point, and the final answer is going to be floating point. Okay. And the value of pi is also defined. I defined it here. And the value of r is 17 that we have inputted. And remember that r double star 3. The double star is exponentiation. So it is r raised to 3. So it will do this computation, and that is displayed here. Now, this is actually the formatting. Volume of the given sphere is. You can see that the same thing has been printed in the output. Volume of the given sphere is. Now here, percentage 0.3 f. Now this percentage f is actually a space holder, just like what you do in C language. Okay, it's a space holder, and the purpose of this 0.3 is to display the output to 3 decimal places. Okay, display the output to 3 decimal places only. So that's the reason why this 0.3 is there. So here this string is closed. Okay, so in this position, percentage 0.3f, the value of VOL, that is volume, will be printed. So you can probably correlate the syntax of this string that we have written and the output that we have got. Okay, volume of the given sphere is, this is the value of the variable VOL. So at the end, you write this percentage VOL. So this VOL will be written over this place in the output. Okay. Now I just want to mention about this particular cell where I have written one bold text. Okay, just for the sake of documentation. Now this is actually, you can see here, it is a markdown cell, and the characters typed in here is not like this. In fact, I just go to the edit mode. So this is what I have typed. Okay. Now the reason you have to write a formula in this markdown cell, have to follow the LaTeX syntax. Okay. Well, this is not mandatory. You can just skip this, and you can simply write this formula in a different manner you want. But just I wanted this, to mention this. You can use the LaTeX syntax to write the formula, and because of this triple hash here, the every text written will be looking like looking bold. Okay, I can control the size of this. For example, if I reduce this to 2 hash, the size will increase. If I reduce it to 1 further, the size will increase even further. Okay. And after typing this, just press enter. So you can see that there's a beautiful line here. I mean, a attractive looking line, which helps you to document your page. Okay. This is a small problem like volume of sphere. I think something is missing here. Volume of a sphere. Okay. Now in Python, there are some keywords. In any textbook related with Python, you will have a list of those keywords. But in Jupyter Notebook or in a interactive programming environment, I can always get a list of keywords very easily. Okay. Suppose if I type this help keywords, keywords is written in quotes. Okay. If I type this, you can see a list will be outputted. A list will be displayed. Now these are some keywords. Most of the I think there are some 40 plus keywords here. These are the keywords which we should not use for any name of the variable or so on and so on. Okay. like for example, false, continue, def, DL. These are the words which we should not use for any variables in our program. That will lead to some kind of error. And I mentioned earlier about the comments. So if I have a comment, I can write it like this. There is no need for a double hash here. A single hash in the beginning of the line will make this entire line a comment. So this is not part of the code. And if I put a comment here, I have my Python line of instruction here, and after that I have put a hash. So this will be a comment. Okay. So it just helps you to understand. You can write something here which helps you to understand this code. Most of the time when we write a code today, and after 1 week, if you open, you will not know or you will not remember why you have written this code here. So in such case, it's always better to write some comment so that at a later point of time you will be able to recall why that comment is written, why you have written this comment. Okay. In fact, you will also, okay, I'll come to that. There is another way in which you can get the list of built-in commands called dir, and in bracket, you just type this double underscore, then type built-ins and double underscore. Okay, if you enter this, so you'll get a list of all the keywords which are used. Even it has got error names of different errors, different types of errors, and all those list which came in the previous cell, that also is there. There's a big list of the built-in names or built-ins. Okay. In fact, all these things are also part of the list here, and you can see that it's outputted as a list. Well, I can always this output can be cleared by going to this cell, then go to this current output and clear. It will clear the output. So here also cell, current output, clear. So if I want the output to come back again, then you should execute this cell, shift enter. Okay, that will execute and open another new cell in the next cell. Okay. Now, many times we get some small doubts about the different keywords or maybe a function. In such cases, I can get a small help from this by executing this command help. Recall that there was one built-in command as. So help as, if I execute this, you can see that there is a small statement here. I mean, there is a small text which is outputted. So by going through this, you can get to know what that particular command is doing and how that command is to be used in your code. Okay. So this is very handy tool which you can use in the interactive mode of execution. I'll close the output. So whenever you get a doubt with regard to any command, you can make use of this help command very freely in interactive mode of execution. Well, I cannot use this command in my program, but in this interactive mode, I can always use it. Okay. Okay. I have another small piece of code here, which has some variables initialized. I have a variable called message, and I've initialized with some string. I've started learning Python. Okay, the value of pi, and another Boolean variable which is had lunch, which is false. Okay, so this is a Boolean variable which is initialized with the value false. Pi is a floating point variable which is initialized with its value. Message is a string type of variable, and it is initialized with this group of words. Okay, I have started learning Python. So this just indicates how you can initialize different types of variables. Message, I initialize it with some value. Pi, I initialize it with some value. Had lunch, I initialize it with one value called false. Magnitude, well, you can initialize multiple variables in the same statement. There's a reason why I have included this. Suppose I have two values or two variables, magnitude and angle. I can initialize it with the two values on the right hand side, 12.5 comma 85.5. So here, first one, 12.5 will be assigned to magnitude and 85.5 will be assigned to angle. It is not restricted to only two. You can have any number of variable names on the left side, but on the right hand side, I must have a matching number of values. That is very important. Okay. Then, okay, if I execute this, nothing will happen because there is no output statements in this cell. So no output will be produced. Only thing is these variables are already are defined now. Okay. And in the next cell, I have written another piece of command called print magnitude comma angle. Okay. So if I execute this, you can see it was executed earlier. So that's why that output was seen there. So I executed once again now. So the value is 12.5 and 85.5, which was initialized in this cell. Okay. So that has been outputted. Now, one more thing to notice here is this is something which not very commonly told in any Python documentation or in Python textbooks. Whenever I write print statement, at the end, there is always a, these two values are separated by a space character. Okay. Whenever I give print statement like this, I have used two, I have given two variables here. So these two variables are separated by a space character in the output. Okay. So by default, the value of this separator is the space character. Now, if the separator has to be space character, I did not mention it in the print statement because it is default. But if I want it to be anything other than that, I need to specify. Now I'll just rework on this print statement with specifies with the separation character specified as a new line character. So that means to say that magnitude should print in one line and the angle should print in the next line. Okay. So SCP is the name of the parameter, and I am specifying it as \n, which is a new line character separator. So that means these two variables are printed with new line character as the separation between them, So you can see that in the output I have 12.5. There is a value of magnitude in the first line, and the angle value 85.5 is displayed in the next line. Okay, so this is something very handily used if you want to print something in a specific format. Okay. Now, another way in which you can get the number of bytes any variable. Okay, I think this we have executed earlier. Anyway, I'll just repeat that. We have seen this earlier, I guess. This is used to display or to get the number of bytes occupied by the different objects. Okay, I'll not use the word variable. I'll use the word object. So an integer object n is occupying 28 bytes, and a string object message is occupying 79 bytes. And I think I recall that the message had actually 30 characters, but in the memory it occupies 79 bytes. And the integer occupies, it has actual integer, this integer value in C++, if you define an integer variable, it occupies only 4 bytes, but here it occupies 28 bytes. Okay. Yeah. Now, just one second. Yeah, I'll go to that example after coming to after telling about the sequence. Okay, in Python or in other languages also, we have something called sequence. That is a group of more than one values. Okay, maybe you would have called it as an array in C++. Here, for example, a string. Earlier, we defined a string message equal to I started learning Python. So it is actually a set of characters. Okay, so that is also considered as a sequence of characters. If you write a list of numbers or a list of something, it is also a sequence. Okay, so in Python we have some built-in sequences called strings, list, tuples, bytes, byte arrays, and range. So all these are strings. All these are sequences, and there are some operations that we can do on sequences in a very simple manner. Okay, so just to illustrate that, I have used a couple of examples here. Now, suppose I define one variable called name and initialize it with these values. Actually, what I'm doing here is I'm initializing this with a tuple. Okay, in a strict sense, I should put a bracket here, but it works even without. Okay, this is a tuple, which is a collection of 3 values. Okay, the first value is Ravi, second is Satya, third is Joshi. Okay, so it is defined with the 3, a sequence. Now, how can I split this sequence? How can I unpack this? I want to assign the first value in the sequence to one variable, second one to another variable, third one to another variable. So how can I do this? Now, this can be done in a very simple manner. Now, this sequence has it's a set of 3 values or 3 strings in this case. So I'll use the 3 variable names, first, middle, and surname. And I'll say equal to name. So now what happens here is name is having it's a sequence of 3 values. So this first value will be assigned to the variable first. Second one will be assigned to the variable middle. And the third one will be assigned to the variable SIRN, surname. I just put a acronym for that. Okay. And now if I print this with the first, these 3 variables are printed with separator as equal to separator equal to \n. So if I execute this, you can see that those 3 values are printed in output, displayed in output in 3 separate lines. Okay. Now, sometimes, as an extension of this, sometimes you want to unpack these elements from a sequence which is of arbitrary length. You probably don't want all of them. You want only few of this. So what you can do is here I defined one sequence called marks, and I have initialized this with 3 plus 3 plus 2, that is 8 values. Okay, it is a sequence of 8 values. Now what I want here is I want a variable by name first should be assigned with the first value, and I want the last value to be assigned with another variable called last, and other things I am not interested in. So I will just dump it onto a variable called middle. Okay, so you can see what happens if I execute this. Okay, the first value is 1. You can see that is the first one, and the last value is 0, and the middle value, the variable middle, is given a value which is the rest of the elements in the sequence, that is 7, 8, 9, 6, 4, 6. You can see that it is outputted as a list. Okay, a sequence which is enclosed in square bracket, we will call it as a list. Okay, I think we will talk about we will be having one full session on this lists probably in the next session. Okay, so the one in the middle, which actually we are not interested in this, so we are dumping it as one sequence. Okay, yeah. The next point is the number form. Okay, there is one more thing here. Print. Okay. The reason why I have put this is to tell you about these 2 commands. sum of middle. Remember, middle is also a sequence. We have seen that middle is a list. This is also a sequence. So when I say sum of middle, all the elements in this list will be summed up. Okay, 16, 25 plus 15, I think it is 40. It sums up to 40 and divided by length of middle. Length of middle is, it is having a length of 6. So it will be 40 by 6. Okay, it will be 40 by 6, which is 6.667. So they just have this command I have used only to give an idea about this sum built-in command. Sum of a sequence. It is necessary that all the elements in this sequence are numbers. So we know that the middle is a sequence. It is a list having numbers. So they will be added up. That is divided by length of the middle, which is 6. How many elements are there in this? So which produces an output of 6.67, right? So I can close this output. We know that numbers can be represented in different formats, in binary, hexadecimal, octal, as a normal integer, floating point, and so on. Okay. In Python, I'll be able to do a conversion from one format representation to another. For example, if I have an integer 25, how is it represented using binary? So I simply type this bin 25 and execute. So you can see that the binary representation of 25 is 11001. Okay. This initial 0b indicates that this representation is binary representation. That's all. So the actual representation is 11001. You can make a verification. This is 1 plus 8 plus 16. 1 plus 8 plus 16. It is 25. Okay, so it's a very easy conversion. You can also see how this hexadecimal conversion can be done. The same 25 in hexadecimal. So you can see that it is 9 plus 16. So the positional value in hexadecimal is this is 0. This is having a value of 1. This is having a value of 16. So it is 16 into 1. Sorry, 16 into 1 plus 9 into 1, which is 25. So this is a hexadecimal notation. This 0x here in the beginning stands for the hexadecimal representation, or it just tells you that this is a hexadecimal literal. This literal is hexadecimal. Octal representation, it is indicated by 0O. Okay, 25 is represented in octal as 31. Octal means each position has a weightage of powers of 8. So the first position has a power of, it has a weight of 1. Second one has a weight of 8. So this is 1 into 1 plus 3 into 8, because the positional weightage of this is 8. So 8 into 3 is 24 plus 1, 25. Okay. And another is the integer. How can you convert any of the representation? For example, how do you convert binary to integer, or hexadecimal to integer, or octal to integer? Now for that I can use this int command, int function. This is actually built-in function. All these are built-in functions. Int 0x19. Remember, 0x, when I write something as 0x19, it is understood that this 19 should be interpreted as a hexadecimal number. So hexadecimal 19, when it is converted to integer, it will be 25. Another important interconversion is from integer to float, or some representation to float. And float is also a built-in function which can be used for converting a number into a floating point value. Here I am using it to convert an integer value 123 into a floating point value, which gives me an output of 123.0. Okay. Yeah, here one. Can you tell me whether this will give me the same answer, 12 plus 3 into 5, and the next one 12 plus 3 star 5. Now here what happens is, recall that the order in which they are executed. So here multiplication has a higher precedence than plus. So first 3 into 5 is executed, 15 plus 12. So the answer will be 27 in this case. Okay. So if I execute this, you can see the output is 27. Okay. So the output is 27. 12 plus 3 into 5. I don't put any brackets. Now suppose if I execute the next one, I'll make this one as the comment by writing this hash, and I'll open this. Now what happens? Because of this bracket, 12 plus 3 is executed plus, which is 15. Okay. And then that is multiplied with 5. So I'll get an answer of 75. So you can see the importance of this bracket. So it again depends what you want to do, whether you want it to be like this, or whether you want this addition to take place first and then multiply the result with 5. So you must express yourself properly while writing this expression, and wherever there is a doubt, you please put this bracket so that there will be no mistakes in the output. Okay. So if you omit to write this bracket, you wanted this plus to happen first and then multiply with 5 and try to while typing, if you omit this bracket, you will get a wrong answer. Okay. So to that extent, you should be careful while writing these expressions. Okay.
Sir, sorry for interruption.
Yeah.
So in your schedule, do you have any session on string concatenation? I mean to say,
Yeah, I'm going today only I'm going to do it.
Tokenization kind of thing.
Tokenization, but string basic I'm going to do.
Okay, sir. Continue, please continue.
Just a few minutes.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, these are just basics, just as a refresher, nothing more.
Fine, sir.
You already seen this. Yeah, I think I've come to strings already. Okay. Okay. Just for the sake of completion, I have put this few lines here as a documentation. You know that a string is a collection of, is ordered collection of characters, and in Python there is a built-in class called str. Okay, so there is no need to invoke that class. It's always available to you. So I only need to write the definition, or I need to just define a variable with that particular string. Okay. And unlike in C, Python has a very large set of methods which can be worked on the strings or string type of variables. Okay. Yeah, I'm just giving you a few examples on which you can define the string. We have already seen this. Suppose I have a string, I can define it like this. The thing is, I can use either a single quote or I can use double quote. So using double quote here will have the same meaning. But the issue comes in our next cell. You can see that in my string itself, I have one single quote, like here, this apostrophe sign. So whenever I have such situation, I can use double quote to enclose this string. Okay. Or in case if I am getting double quote in as part of the string, then I can use single quote to enclose it. We will be using single quote unless the situation demands. This is a sentence. Like I've just given the name for the variable as sentence. Suppose if there are multiple lines, I can if your string is going to span multiple lines, I can I can define it with this triple quotes. Okay, it's the same quote what you used in the first cell, but I'll be typing it 3 times. Okay, so once I write this triple quote, it opens up multi-line text or multi-line string, and I can close it by writing this triple quotes once again. Okay, so I just call this variable name as a paragraph. Now another very important thing in Python that we need to know is the escape characters. Okay, so let's just see what happens if in this escape characters are always written with the backslash. I hope you can identify this escape characters here. This backslash T is for a tab, which is a group of few blank spaces, and backslash N is a new line character, so it will open a new line, and backslash B is backspace. Okay, backspace, and this double backslash is will be outputted as a single backslash. So let's see the output of this and try to observe the output. So what has happened here is it is printed as it is. This backslash T is interpreted as a tab. So you can see that 8 characters or 8 blank spaces are printed in the output. Okay, am fine. It has come as it is. Then I have this backslash N, which is interpreted as a new line character. So you can see that whatever follows from here will be printed in the next line. And backslash N is interpreted as a new line character. Then I have this learning up to this. It is printed. But you see that this G is not there. Why? G is not there because following to this, there is a backspace. Okay. Now what happens when you press backspace? You move backwards by 1 character. So this G character has vanished in the output because of this backslash B. Afterwards, you have this space, which has come up here right correctly. Then you have this Python, which also has come in the output. Then this double backslash has been interpreted as a single backslash. Okay, so this is interpreted by the print statement as a single backslash. Yeah. Now, okay, I think I will skip this few things here. Just see what happens in the output. Okay. Now this is considered as a raw string. Now what is the difference between this definition and this definition? Earlier I had some definition of strings. The difference is there is one R preceding this statement, and if you put R here, it is considered to be a raw statement. Raw statement means all these backslash N and backslash T, they will not be interpreted. They will be considered as some raw characters. So they will be printed in the output as it is. As you can see here, this output is exactly same as whatever typed here. Okay. Now there is another important important aspect in Python called Unicode. Normally, when we learned in C or C++, we learned that characters are using 7 or 8 bits or 1 byte of space for representing. But if you use only 8 bits, you cannot represent all the graphical characters or all the different fonts and other things. So there is a provision where the number of bytes for representing each character can be larger. So for such representation, there is a provision. For example, if I represent one number, if I represent one space character using 16-bit value instead of 8-bit, I'll use 16-bit value. I can represent it in this manner. Remember, 20 is actually the hexadecimal representation for space character, but I am trying to represent it using 16 bits, 0020. Remember, this 0020 is to be read as a hexadecimal number, and to say that this is a 16-bit representation, I'll be using a escape sequence here, \u. Okay, so this entire thing \u 0020 is interpreted as a space character, and it is interpreted, it is saved, it is using 16 bits for representation. And let's see what happens when I execute this. Okay. So your string is X, then there is a space character, and then there is spam. Okay. So there is a space character here, which is not represented as a space. Instead, it is represented using a hexadecimal number. So that's what this U preceding this will tell you. Okay. There are some escape sequences commonly used in Python. I just made a list here for the sake of documentation. I think this has to be backslash. Okay, fine. Yeah. Now let's see the output here and then try to appreciate what this fellow is doing. Now, probably you can recall that in C or C++, there is a format specification in the print C statement where I can specify how the output should look like. Okay. So here in Python also, I have a formatting statement for a string. Okay. So let's see how this formatting can be done. This is important when I want to print the output in a specific format. Okay. I'm just defining one string. My name is Ravi, and I'm trying to print with some specific pattern. So what I want in the output should be like this: length of the string. So the string itself is printed, and what is the length? Okay. So I specify the different fields in the output, like length of the string. That's what I want in the output. Then I reserve one space here. This space is reserved for the variable yes. Okay. This space is reserved for the variable yes. So how I can reserve it? Colon yes. And I also put this curly braces. That is very important. Okay. And I also have to put it inside this quote. Of course, this quote will come in the output. Okay. Whatever code that I have put is this quote, double quote that is coming in the output. So if you don't put this code, that will not be available in the output. Okay. Is, then again this curly brace colon D. So this D is the space holder for an integer value. Okay. So I close the string here. Then I use dot format. Then what is this? I have to provide the values for these two space holders. The first value is yes. So this yes will be printed there. And the next value is a integer value, which is length yes, length of yes. I hope you can recall this built-in function length. Length the variable yes. So in this case, there are 15 characters. So it has printed length of the string my name is Ravi is 15. Okay. So this is how you can format the output. There are a few other ways in which you can format the output. Maybe if time permits, we can see it in the later classes, or I'll use such examples in the later illustrations. Okay. I'll just make you observe the output in this case. Okay. So you can see that. See, I have to use this single quote and double quote. Both of them have to be used as part of the string. So in such case, how can I specify this? So I go to this escape sequence backslash quote. Okay. So in this place, a single quote will be printed, as you can see here. A single quote is printed, and the entire length of string is enclosed using this single quote. And this double quote will not come in the way because it is distinct from the single quote that you have used to enclose the entire string. You can just observe the output. Similarly, I have one more. Here I am using double quote to enclose the string, and these two double quotes are specified using the escape sequence. Okay, so there's a difference. The output is same. I think I'll skip these things. Anyway, just I'll make you see the output. Actually, 105 is the octal representation for the character E, and backslash, and I write these 3 digits that will be interpreted as the octal number, and the corresponding character is printed here. Now, if I change this number to say some 3, then you can see the corresponding character is C. Okay, and here the Unicode is used, which is hexadecimal number, 16-bit hexadecimal number 0051, and the corresponding value is Q. So if I just change this number to say 55, the corresponding value is U. Okay, and here actually I'm using 32-bit hexadecimal code. You just see the difference. Small U is used here, and here capital U is used. Okay, this will be interpreted as a 32-bit value. So it is outputting the same thing. Okay, now here just observe the output. Now in this case, I have not used print statement here. I just typed the path. So the raw string is displayed. Raw value of this path is displayed. Whereas when I use it in print statement, all these backslashes are interpreted. You can see that this double backslash amounted to only single slash in the output. So is here. Okay. So this double backslash has been interpreted by the print statement, and it has produced only one backslash in the output. But if I just say path, it will print the value of the path in the raw format. Okay, now we are getting into the string basics. I mean, the different things that you can do with string. But before that, just one thing that I want to be very clear about. The hexadecimal values, or the integer representation of any character, or the character representation, character corresponding to any integer. How do I get this in Python? So there are 2 built-in commands. One is called ORD, which is used to get the integer value corresponding to any character. So the usage of that is very simple. ORD, and in bracket you give the value of the, the character whose ordinal value or the character integer value is to be obtained. So here the value of this is 71. Okay. If I want the hexadecimal representation, I can simply put hex outside this. Now this will give me the hexadecimal value. Okay. Well, I have a small query here. I hope these characters are visible. Should I increase the size slightly? But that will eat up the screen.
Sir, I think visible.
This is visible, right? Okay. Now, just the opposite of this ORD, that is ordinal value function, is the CHR function. If I know the number, how do I know its character representation? For example, CHR 123 is the representation for the curly braces. Okay, the opening curly brace. So if I say CHR 123, it will give me the character. So the ASCII value for this character is 123. Okay. Now I can also give the hexadecimal number here. For example, if I write this, it's giving me an error. Okay, so you can see that it's giving me G. So I can give hexadecimal value or I can give an integer value, whatever representation can be used here. Okay, maybe you can just write down this command. This is just this is a small one-line code, okay, which is used to display all the ASCII values starting from 32 to 123. Okay, so it is just displaying all the ASCII. The first column is the ASCII, the integer value. The second column is the hexadecimal value, and the third column is the ASCII character. Okay, so it's a small one-line code which will give me the list of all the ASCII character and the corresponding code.
Sir, Ravindra sir,
Yes, sir.
just give us some time because parallelly they are executing it.
Yeah, sure. I'll just close this output cell. Now here I'm using the same format statement that was there earlier. First, I'll write the value of I in decimal format. Then I'll write the same value of I in hexadecimal format, which is indicated by this X. And then I'll write the character, which is indicated by this S. And after writing these three values, I want a new line character because the next value has to be printed in the next line. Please buzz me when they are done with. I presume they are done with.
Yes, sir, they are done with this.
Yeah. So in this, it's a single line statement, and if you execute, you should get an output something like this. Okay. I'll close this output, otherwise the length of the page becomes very long. Okay. Now the next one, next piece of small program, which is used to print the ASCII values of each character in the string. So once again, I'm using this string. I'm learning Python. So what I want here is I want the character to be printed in the first, for example, I, then the corresponding decimal value, and then corresponding hexadecimal value. Now here I am illustrating one more aspect of output formatting. In the previous program here, I had just written :b, :x, :s, which indicates that the variables to be interpreted as a decimal number, hexadecimal number, and as a string. But here I'm going slightly further and also specifying how many space should be reserved for each of these variables. So when I write this 8 here indicates use 8 character space for printing the first one, that is the character. And within that 8 character space, place the character in the center. So that's what this caret symbol means. So when I say this caret symbol, then 8, it means, for example, the very first character in this string is I. So what happens here is, in the output, 8 character space is used, and in that 8 character space, in the center, the character I is printed. Okay. Now, in the next case, I'm using less than 5, less than symbol and 5, and then D. This is also an integer, which is the corresponding decimal value. I want to use 5 character spaces, and I want the value to be justified to the left. So here, if I'm using less than character, it means left justified. Now here also it is left justified and 5 character position, and it is hexadecimal number. So that's what these values, these characters will be interpreted as. So let me show you the output. So you can see that this is the title of the table, title row. Then I have the character, first character is I. Then I have decimal. Sorry, I have this 73, which is left justified. So actually here the 5 character spaces are used. You can see that there. And here again 5 character spaces are used. The 73, the hex value for 73 is 49. Hex value for 32 is 20. Okay. So here 8 characters are used. Now you see that there is a tab here. Because of this tab, you'll see some gap in between each of these values in each row. Okay. So this is how the output will be. Now if you are typing this in a command prompt of Python, ideally, it's very difficult to see the output. You can see the output, but difficult to observe. So you need actually an interactive tool, either Jupyter Notebook, or you need something called IPython. That also will help you to write multi-line code. Okay. So now naturally I have the code with me and the corresponding output, and you can see that I can export this to, I can download this as some other as IPYNB, or I can even I'll just come back to that. I can export this to some PDF file and save it as a PDF file. Okay. Okay. Now, are they executing now? Well, I hope they are done with. I'm going a little more detailed with the string. The reason is string is a sequence, and we have other sequences like list, tuple, or I can save some time over there because the concepts are very similar. Particularly the next one, the slicing. The concept is very similar in the list also, or in the other sequences. So if I go here little detailed, I can save some time on explaining those things in the list. Now, this piece of code should also explain you one more statement in Python. That is the for statement or the for loop. So in this, what happens is I have written one for statement here. So for ch in string. So what happens here is ch will be assuming the value. So essentially, you'll be walking through the different characters in this string, and when you're walking through, you're picking up one string, one character each time. For example, you walk through this string, first you catch up with this I. So in the first loop, ch will have the value of I. Then you go once again, you complete this statement and go back once again. Now the value of ch will be the space character. So you walk through this entire string one by one character after one character until the end of the string. So when I say for ch in string, you're essentially walking through the string one character at a time. And that character is being processed in the print statement. Processed in the sense you're using that character in the next statement. So the print statement will be executed as many times as many characters are there in this string. Okay. Sir, is it done?
No, sir, still they are doing.
Yeah, fine.
Sir, done, sir.
Okay, fine. I hope everybody is able to appreciate this piece of code in the sense you got the required output. Okay, now let's go to the next very important topic, slicing, because we'll be very often using this with respect to string and the list also, list or tuple. So I can save some time when discussing the list. Okay, so slicing is, for example, I have a string here. Okay, in this cell, like you can see, there is a string here. How can I extract certain portion of this string? For example, I want to extract only this much, I space am. Okay. Now there is a concept of indexing, like there is an index associated, which is an integer value associated with each characters here. So this is the first character which has an index of 0. The next character which has an index of 1. Next one which has an index of 2, and so on. So you can associate an integer number starting from 0. The first character is having an index of 0, and like that, if you go on, the last character will have an index equal to length of the entire string minus 1. Okay. Now, for example, if I insert a cell below, what is the length of this string? I can find the length of this string is 20. Okay, that means there are 20 characters. So the value of index will range from 0 to 19. The last character will have a index of 19. Now this is the forward indexing. There is another way you can use this index. The last character can also be considered to have an index of -1. Okay, the last character can have an index of -1. Next is -2, like that. The first one is -20. That is minus length of the string. Okay, so using this index, I'll be able to extract the different portions of this string, and let's see how this can be done. Is it so how the indexes are numbered? Positive index, starting character is 0, the last character is length of the string -1. Negative indexing, last one will have -1 and the first one will have minus length of character. For example, this is having index of -1, this is having index of -20. Either of them can be used in a convenient way, depending upon what you want to do with the string. So we'll try to understand this with the few examples. I'll just go to the example straight away. I have almost all the use cases here. Now suppose I initialize one string yes by name yes and initialize it with say loud sound. It has 4 + 1 5 6 7 8 9 10 characters. Okay, it has 10 characters. So if I use positive index, the first character has 0 index and the last character has an index of -9 because length is 10. If I use negative index, the last character has an index of -1 and the first character has an index of -10. Okay. Now let's see what happens if I give S0. What am I expecting is, now see the way it is written, the name of the variable, then I use square bracket. Inside the square bracket, I put an integer which represent the index. So here I am expecting the first character to be outputted. So if I enter, you can see the first character L is outputted. So I have extracted the first character which is having the index 0. Okay, so I have written a comment here just to understand what this command will do. First character in the string will be outputted in this case. Let's see, yes, -1. So I'm expecting the last character to be outputted here because I have given the index as -1. -1 correspond to the last character. Okay, so again it is, sorry, I think I executed the first one, D, which is the last character. So what will be S3? Remember, it is a positive index. So 0, 1, 2, 3. That is this character, fourth character. So in this case, the fourth character is outputted. That is once again this D. What is -4? -4 will be the fourth character from the end because it is minus, counting will be from the end. So -1, -2, -3, -4. So it should give me an output of O. So let's see the output. So you can see it's given me an output of O. Okay. So in all these 4 examples, I've used a single value of index, whether be it positive or negative. I've used only a single value. But now if I want to output more than one value, let's see how that can be done. Okay. Okay. Now here I've given colon as the first character and then I've written 5. What does this mean is, starting from 0 till 5th character. Remember, this 5 is not included. Actually, what this will give is extracts items from beginning up to 5th character. That is from index 0 to 4. So this is actually index 0 to 4. Don't read this as 0 to 5, but read it as from 0 to 4. Now 5 character, 5th one is the one which is where you have to end, but that is not included. Okay, there can be some confusion, but when you practice this will be very easy because the consideration is quite contrast in the negative index case and in the positive index case. In the positive index case, here this is not included. The index 5 is not included. Only index 0 to 4 is included. So if I execute this, what I'm expecting at the output is starting from 0 up to 4. That is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, including the space character. Okay, LOUD and a space character that will be outputted. Okay. So you can see that LOUD and there is also a space character which is outputted. Now suppose if I make it as 7, then about 2 more characters will be added. Okay, so you can see that 7 characters are outputted here, starting from the beginning till index 6, that is outputted. Okay, now in the next case, how do I interpret this? I think this has to be practiced a little. I have used 2 colons here. What you write in each space here is, this is the beginning. Okay, in the first space I am writing beginning. Here I am writing end value. Here it is the increment. Okay, here it is actually the increment. The third one is the increment. Now, when you have not written something in the first place, beginning, whether the beginning index is 0 or whether the beginning index is -1. Now that depends on the direction in which you want to go. Whether you want to go from beginning to end or from end to beginning. Now in this case, the increment is -1. So the direction is always considered to be from end to beginning. Okay, direction is reverse, not the normal direction. Direction is in the reverse. So when the direction is in the reverse, the first index is having the first index, that is the first item in the sequence, will be having an index of -1. So here the default value is used, which is -1. If it is -1, I need not write it. And end at -4. Unfortunately, here -4 means fourth value, fourth character. It is included. Okay. So, yeah, it is excluded. So -1 to -4. So let's see the output and try to come back to this once again. So what has happened here is started from -1. Remember, the last character was first character was D. That is this D, and the next character is N. Remember, you are going from last to beginning, from end to beginning. The last character was, I think, or I'll just rewrite that string here. It was loud sound. Okay. The last character was D. So you can see that is printed. The next one is N, next that is printed here. The next one is U, that's printed here. So 3 characters are printed. You have extracted them, but see the output. It is extracted in the reverse order. Okay, it is extracted in the reverse order because we have told the direction to be reverse by saying the increment is -1. Okay, so till which point I should go? I should go up to -4. -4 means this is having -1, -2, -3, -4. But -4 is not included in the output. So only 3 are included. Only these 3 are included. You can see D, N, U. Okay, that has come out in the output. Okay. As a query, suppose if I had written -2 here, remember this will be the starting value. Start from -2, that means start from here. That is start from here. That is N. So just see what is going to be the output. Oh, sorry, because of this, the problem was this. I'll comment it. Okay, NU, because start from N, this having index -2, this having index -3, this having index -4. But this output is not to be included, -4. So it outputs two characters starting from second value from the end, NU. That will be the output. Okay. There is another example here. You can just try to understand how this output is produced. Now here starting value is -3, starting index is -3. So which is having this -3? This U, -1, -2, -3. Now also the direction in which I have to go is -1. Increment is -1, means start from end, go to the beginning, end to beginning. But you're not specifying the end, instead you're specifying the third character. So the third character is U. You can see the output is U here. And in the center, you have not written anything. Because that nothing is written, it will go till the end in the reverse direction. That is till the very first character. Okay. So you can see that U, O, S, space, D, U, O, L. That is the output. So basically what you have done is you have extracted this part of the string and produced it in the reverse direction in the output. Okay. Okay. Now I think now there is another very simple way in which you can reverse the entire string. So I can reverse the entire string if I don't specify this. Can you see that the output is the same as the input, except that it is spelled in the reverse direction. If you read from the end, LOUD space SOUND. Just read it from the end in the reverse direction. So this is a very simple mechanism by which I can reverse a string. Okay, reversing a string can be very easily done using this. Just one or two more examples on this. In all these examples, in these previous two examples, I have given the increment as -1. Increment can be anything. Okay. Now let's see how we can skip the items. So I will use a string. I will change the string now. A, B, C, D, F, G, H up to P. And suppose I initialize this variable S. And now I'll print the alternate. I'll extract the alternate items. Okay. It will not extract starting from the beginning. Every second item is extracted. Every second item that is indicated here, 2. Increment is 2. Okay. So starting from 1, remember the index always starts with 0, but now I want to start from 1. So this having the index 1, right? Remember the increment is positive here. So we are going in the direction of, in the forward direction. So the first item is having the index 1, which is B. So you can see that first B is extracted. Next increment is 2, means skip 1, go to this one. Remember this is having the index 1. So the next index to be extracted is 1 plus 2. That is the increment value. That is D. You can see the D is outputted. Next one is F. F is outputted. Next one is H. That is outputted. And next one is J. That is outputted. It will not go further because you have asked it to stop at index 10. Okay. You have asked it to stop at index 10. So only till this point it will be extracted. Okay. What will happen in this case? Just try to see the output. This -2 means increment is -2. That will also set the direction. Direction is from end to beginning. So you can see that here the starting and end is not specified. So it will be the default values. So here the starting is this P, end is A. So the first item is P, and every second value is included in the output. Just read it from the end to beginning with every alternate characters like P, N, L, J, H, F, D, B. That's what is outputted here. Okay. Now, another very important thing in string, I think we are done with the slicing. This is how we can slice a string. We almost give an example for each of the use cases. Okay, we will get to know more about this in the list also. We are repeating the same thing in the list. So if you are familiar with this, probably we can save some time in the list. There's another very important aspect here. Every book will say you that strings are immutable. What does this mean? Strings are immutable means I cannot change the content of a string in place. That means I have a string. For example, we have defined yes to be what is that, loud sound. Okay, small s. You have defined it equal to loud sound. Now I cannot change a character in that using a statement like this: yes, index 1 equal to d. If I suppose if I execute this, okay, there will be error. What is that error? It says strings are immutable. Okay, strings are immutable means I cannot change the values of any character, or I cannot change the value of any character in the string inline. In fact, I can write yes equal to d here. I can give a new value for the entire string. That is fine. Okay, but I cannot change any part of the string. Okay, I cannot change any part of the string. For example, s3. This will cause an error because strings are immutable. So out of the various sequences like string and tuple, both of them are immutable. Sequence list is mutable, and the moment it is mutable, there are a lot of other possibilities. We will see that in the next session with the list. Okay. So it also, you can remember this in another way. So a expression something like this: yes of yes in bracket an index value equal to d. This cannot appear in the left hand side. Okay, this cannot appear in the left hand side. That's why it has caused an error. So if I execute this again, this will cause an error. Okay. Now another very important thing is, how can I concatenate the strings? How concatenate means how can I join the different words? For example, I have defined different strings. I am learning Python. So I have defined 4 strings here. Okay. And how can I join them together? For example, if I join them together, it will be a single string. Okay. Don't worry about spaces because I have not given any space here. So it is not looking like a proper sentence. It is just 4 4 group of characters are joined together, and it gives me a one single string. Okay. So if I want a space character at the end of every statement, probably I should add them here. Okay. There's a manipulation that you'll have to do. Now I can do 2 operations on the string. One is this plus. Okay. So plus operator can be exercised on a string, and you can also use the star operator with an integer. So what happens if I use a string hi with an exclamatory sign? You can use any string, multiply it with 5. You can see that that is repeated 5 times. Okay, the string hi and exclamatory sign is repeated 5 times. Okay. Now a simple usage of this repetition is, suppose I want to draw a line in the output. Okay, suppose I want to draw a line in the output, I can simply say print then one dash as a single character multiplied by 80. So if I execute this, you can see okay, it has actually come in multiple lines because the width of this is slightly different than 80 characters. So I'll just change this to 660. Okay, so I can draw a line with 60 dash printed in the output. So there's a very simple usage of this characters multiplied by a number. Remember, this has to be an integer. This cannot be any other variable. Okay. Obviously, the plus sign cannot be used with different types of arguments. So I cannot concatenate a string with an integer. I call this as a string because it is enclosed with the quote. This is an integer because It is not enclosed with anything. So this will result into an error. Okay. Okay. Now earlier I mentioned about the membership operator. Now I can easily find whether this son is in Thompson. The answer is true, right? Because you can see son is a member of this. So the answer will be true. What about this? This SUN is not part of this. So this will result into false. Okay. Sorry. This will result into false. Now home not in Thompson. There is no home here. So let's see what this will result into. This will be this true because this is not in Thompson. Now the beauty of Python is this almost looks like our normal English. Home not in Thompson. The answer is true. It is not in Thompson.